All right, let's go ahead and get started. We're live. All right, it's like the news. Well, welcome everybody. I think this is like the second or third time, perhaps the third time that we've done a Facebook live event. Welcome everybody. It's great to see everybody. Glad you could make it. Um, we're doing this meeting a little bit like one of the things we used to do, which was our neighborhood connection meetings. And one of the key things about the neighborhood connection meetings is it wasn't just a town hall where we would show up in individual areas with myself and maybe a few people. We brought at the neighborhood connection meetings the management team, all of the directors, the chief of police, public works director, all of the directors of the city departments, and had them there as well to answer questions and give presentations. Now, today we're not going to do any presentations by the department directors, but they're here in case we've got any specific questions that we need to answer. So we're looking forward to all the questions, and actually we got a lot of questions before we got when we first launched this, and I've responded to some, but some I saved for this event. First of all, I want to say thank you for showing up today, and I know some people are going to be coming and going, but these are really important opportunities for us to communicate, and I think that looking forward to discussing the key issues affecting our community, and that you would want questions answered on. I do want to say I'm really excited about the process that we've gone through for our city budget. I'm very thankful to the council and to the staff, all of the staff and the finance department. Day, our director for finance, has just done a superb job, as well as the directors. We've really had to really cinch up our belts and really, really look in every nook and cranny for resources to continue to deliver the services that are important for the city. I have to tell you, we're very, very fortunate. We made the moves we did 2 years ago with regard to leaving the Score jail, and also with the water and sewer utility tax. Those two moves for this budget um, have freed up essentially $4 million. This budget that we did first reading on at our city council meeting, gosh, a couple of days ago now, on Tuesday, enabled us to put forward, actually, with the council passed at first reading the city budget unanimously. They moved it forward to second reading at the next city council meeting for final approval. And that budget, and also even my proposed budget, didn't propose any layoffs in light of the COVID-19 uh, shortfalls in regard to revenue. We were able to make sure that we didn't have any layoffs, no substantial reductions in service. In fact, actually, the council and finance department and myself found additional resources to make sure that we could increase certain positions. We added a person to help out with planning in the community development department. That was $100,000 a year, not a full-time employee, but essentially for a 2-year position to help out with planning and strategic vision of our downtown moving forward for the next 2 years. That's critical. Help out with economic development. Tim Johnson, I always say, is the hardest working person in city government, and he's running pillar to post, trying to get keep our businesses and to add others. So we're going to add a person to help him. We're hiring on a half-time basis a diversity, equity, and inclusion position, first ever of its kind in the city. And in fact, for a dedicated position, we had some of those duties for a previous assistant city manager years ago, but for a dedicated position, this is breaking new ground. We're going to be having a federal lobbyist. We put some money in there, and the council felt very strongly about making sure that we had resources for that. And let's see what else. IT needed assistance, so we have brought in an additional person for to help out with administrative duties. So that's what's going on there, and really a very collaborative process for that entire budget process. Can you believe this, you guys? We started in pre-meetings at 5 o'clock on Tuesday, and that went for about over an hour. And then we started our city council meeting at 6:30. We didn't get done with that council meeting till almost midnight on Tuesday. So it's been a pretty crazy week. But a lot done, and we've got a great council, and I'd like to thank them for their partnership and all that they do. One of the things that we talked about at the city council meeting is that in light of the governor's order and as a result of the spike in COVID cases, um, not only in King County, but statewide, and really what's happening around the country, um, as a result of the rollback and the restrictions on in restaurant dining, we have really stepped into overdrive to scoop up all of the unallocated and unspent CARES Act money that we had been allocated from the federal government. We were able to locate over $500,000 that we are going to be getting out to our local restaurants in hopefully chunks of about $5,000. Before the city council meeting on Tuesday, I signed 60 letters to get out to to get out to restaurants in which previous CARES Act allocations had been made. We received in our first allocation from the federal government $2.94 million in CARES Act funding, and in the second allocation, $1.5 million. Um, that's about 4.4, doing a little quick math, $4.4 million. Now, we got out in regard to direct assistance to local businesses, right about $900,000, a little under $900,000 in direct contribution. We also, through El Centro de la Raza, allocated $500,000 to rent assistance, $200,000 in childcare assistance, and that is all of the CARES Act distributions is on top of the um, immediate care, immediate money that the city council spent at my request for support for food banks. The two main food banks in our town, at the Multi-Service Center, who just does a tremendous job, in the Federal Way Senior Center, who does likewise. Shelley Perea over there at the Senior Center just does a phenomenal job. And so we got quite a bit of money out and resources out there for those humanitarian assistance. With that, why don't I get into some of the questions that have been asked previously, and then we'll get into the scroll of the questions. Actually, I see Jamie Lynn Mallory. What is going on to replace the old Sears? I think there are a couple of questions like that, even in the prior question, a presumption that was going to be a grocery store. So we have been working very closely with the management at the Commons. In fact, just last week I had a very lengthy Zoom meeting with their leadership and what they're thinking about for the future of that facility. With respect to the Sears store in particular, they really are on the ground floor working on a grocery store. Now, the name of that grocery store is not being released at this point. In fact, actually, several months ago, they were thinking about a particular grocery store chain in California that was going to move up. Now that's pivoted to another one. I think they want to keep that under wraps at this point. But a grocery store is going on into that location, and they're looking at next year by the time that they would finish that. Sorry, let me get a little drink here. I received a question from Nathan a couple days ago about what is the latest status on the app that will allow folks to report issues observable throughout Federal Way. And I think part of the comment was that this was something that I announced at the State of the City address at the end of February. That's absolutely right. So the launch date for the Eyes on Federal Way, as you'll start seeing commercials and you'll start seeing launch materials for that, is December 15th. We have been working very hard to make sure that we were able to get word out, we were able to work out all the technology. The idea with the app is that people from their phones will just be able to, message us and make sure that if they see a grocery cart, garbage, graffiti, whatever it is, it immediately goes on Eyes on Federal Way, and then it is channeled to where we can get maximum responsiveness. Now, that I do want to make it clear, though, that that is something that we already do here at the City of Federal Way, but we've been responding as we receive the information, whether I receive an email or council, staff, any comments that we see on social media, anything that we personally see driving around the city. We send out Public Works to pick up the garbage and the graffiti. I would also let everybody know that one of the things one of the things that I do every Monday during management team with the directors is I get a report on where graffiti is and pictures of where graffiti has been identified and located around town. And we immediately, as soon as we see it, within 24 hours, we either scrub it off, paint over, whatever we need to do. If it's on private property, we incentivize the folks to make sure that they get that off. But whether it's graffiti on a fence or at a building or on a public facility, we get that off right away, and that's important. And also, we've actually got 2 graffiti techs that travel around downtown or around all over town and remove these, and then we keep a record of them picture wise, and then we follow up, make sure that we remove those right away. As well, with our grocery carts, we remove those as soon as we've got a team of people that it's a program that we've done. We were before this picking up 2,000 grocery carts per year. It was amazing. It was kind of outrageous to see that many grocery carts out there. So we've got a program now in which we're getting those off the streets immediately. We've got people roving around the city picking up those carts. They really are sort of emblematic of blight, and we do not allow that. We also have now, as a result of the council's approval of my proposal, 2 litter control individuals that we purchased a truck, and their job, 5 days a week is to pick up trash. They fill up that truck twice a day. So it's just, absolutely astonishing the amount of trash that just naturally, or not naturally, but that appears on our streets, either in the medians, rights of way, all over town. So it's something that, I think that, one of the things that I've said about this is that the core function of government, in my opinion, and I think this, which everybody would agree and rightly expect, is that we do our absolute best to make the city safe. But I think the strong corollary of that and the natural following of that is that we need to have a clean city as well. People should be able to expect and rely on that. So that's something that we're really working on. Okay, let's see here. We are with El Centro de la Raza. We got out $500,000 of rent assistance. I saw a question about that, and that was on a first come first come basis for people that met the qualifications, and that money has now been allocated. I talked about the Sears store, and I saw a question about the skate park and what's going on at the skate park. We've actually hired, with regard to the Public Works and Parks facility, our current facility on 28th over there on the east side of where Steel Lake Park is. That facility is really kind of falling down around the folks that work over there. We had to do some emergency work to make sure that we sort of fixed it up. But while we may have identified that area where the skate park is as a possible location, we actually hired a firm to conduct a search of available properties around our city, and also exactly what the needs are and how much space. And so at that point, they will present that to the city council, and then the city council will make a determination. Okay, in regard to where it's going to go and all of that. So no, I want to let the person know that asked about that, about the skate park, that I think it was Mary. No decisions have been made or predetermination about exactly where that facility is going to go. But we do need to rebuild somewhere our public works facilities. We lose about $100,000 a year in theft from the location where where we have that storage facility right now. So we've got a real problem with that location, and we've got a safety issue there where the people work. There was a question about overnight emergency shelter for the homeless, and we are actually planning. I had written a response on this before. We're working with our folks at the community center, where they're going to utilize the community center when the levels are met. Or we've got a couple of area churches that we can use, and we'll probably move those around depending on. It won't probably be all at the community center or all at a particular one of the two churches that we're working with. But we've got a plan if we get to a certain cold level or snow, that our protocol will go into place, and we will have, at least for activation, for at least 2 nights at a minimum, for when it gets freezing and when the snow event starts, and also as we believe it's necessary. And we are going to be working with Catholic Community Services to staff that, and just like we do over at what's being done at the day center. We do have a real challenge with regard to COVID and making sure that whatever we do is, that we're not subjecting the people that are in shelter, in what they call congregate shelter, to COVID situations and circumstances. So we'll have to make sure that we appropriately social distance and space these out, and make sure that the staff and the folks that have that shelter are safe. Okay, so I think that let's see here. Well, I want to let everybody know we did, obviously, we're doing everything we can to keep our community safe. I'm very concerned, obviously, with the increase in COVID, in South King County in particular. We added a testing location here in working with King County and King County Public Health and St. Francis, and that's going on down at the King County Aquatic Center. I saw something a question before about testing space and making sure it's available. That is a free service, and I think we had almost 900 people on Monday, the 16th, get tested at that location. So that's a real facility. I was right in line the very first day, got myself tested. My wife Wendy says, make sure you get, if you're going down there for the opening, have them test you. And I'm telling you, boy, they put that thing way up your nose, and it was. And what I did not expect, just FYI, is I did not expect to have a TV camera in my face when they were doing it. So it's one thing to have that thing, shoved so far up your nose it tickles your brain, but it's quite another to keep a straight face while you got a camera in your face. But anyway, it got important. I got tested, and we all need to be tested, just to make sure that we're safe and our families are safe. That's really what this is about. It's about our families and the people that we love, and our neighbors and our coworkers, and making sure that we get through this. We're very the next thing that's going to happen, obviously, is the rollout of these vaccines. The Moderna vaccine looks like it doesn't need to be kept at the ultra cold as the other first announced vaccine, and so you'll probably see, I would imagine, the Moderna vaccine probably be used primarily right off the bat. Okay, so I've got. Let's take a look at the online comments. Oh, hi, Tirza. I see you say hi. Thank you, Gail, for letting me know that I was live. Is this? Yeah, exactly. It's. Okay, so Jamie Lynn, we talked about the old Sears. That's really exciting. It's going to be next year. Lori Lucky. Lori Lucky writes, they could use it for a homeless shelter if only the commons owner would agree. It would be locked off from the rest of the mall, and at least people would be out of the elements. So Lori, as I mentioned, they have been really working. I think they're going to utilize probably about 60,000 square feet of the old Sears for this upcoming grocery store. And that process, I never knew this before I became mayor. That process is called demising. And what they do is they go in and sort of rework the interior structure. Let's see here. Cynthia. Hi, Cynthia. Mayor, thank you for the town hall meeting. Thank you so much for listening to residents. Oh, thank you. And for the issues about human treatment at SCORE, that's something that's on our radar screen. And we appreciate your valuing our input. Thank you, Cynthia. Cynthia is one of our human services commissioners, and also used to work actually for our city as well. So thank you. Tirza writes, why would they consider an international grocery store? Or why won't they? Okay, got it. I saw your correction. They won't even, Tears said, they won't tell us exactly what the grocery store is, probably because the first time they told us about the grocery store they were planning, I got kind of excited and was telling everybody the name of the grocery store, and that's why I think they're going to hold off now. We thought it was a particular grocery store chain in California, and I was pretty excited about it. But it turns out they've changed that particular deal fell through. As soon as I know it and I'm allowed to say it, but they won't even tell me now. So they're working on it. It's coming soon. Let's see here. For the Commons Mall, this might be a great site for mixed use with building housing. Actually, Cynthia, that's exactly what they're thinking. The Commons is actually thinking about, the malls. The first mall in the country was Northgate Mall. I don't know if you guys knew that or not. And my dad was involved in. He worked for the Bon Marché. I guess you remember the Bon. My twin brother and I kind of grew up running around, getting lost in the South Center and Tacoma Mall bonds. But the malls are really sort of they're kind of a dinosaur in the retail industry, and I think ultimately, I think the Commons may want to really look at putting residential, going vertical, going much more of what they call lifestyle retail. Take the lid off the mall and make it much more of a traditional shopping experience. It's something they're looking at. I can't get too far into what their additional plans are, but I do think they will be looking at putting residential on that property. And I think they're looking moving forward and going that direction. So that would really be interesting. And I think that property and that the Commons Mall, I think, really has the opportunity to really be a central location, obviously, for the community. It is already a central location, but I think they could really activate it. And I think they're looking for ways to do that to fit the market. Either for condos, apartments, or whatever. Okay, Andrea writes, thank you for having this meeting. Given the new guidelines around COVID-19, is it possible for the pool to stay open at the community center over the next month? Andrea, thank you. I want to let everybody know that I really, I know that there are other pools that are open. Based on where we're at right now, I just can't agree to open the community center pool at this point. And I know that there's probably reasonable people that disagree. Now, I want to let everybody know that's watching that on Sunday, when I was talking, after we watched the governor's press conference, and the governor made the decision to close gymnasiums and fitness centers. So the preliminary decision was made on Sunday to close the community center. On Monday, we received additional information that pools can stay open. But if we open the pool, we open the community center. Now, we obviously are not going to have the gymnasiums open. We're not going to have the workout area. But we are really experiencing a very, very high rate of infection in this community. And I think that I just have made the decision based on just community spread and what we know. I had a briefing along with other Sound Cities Association or King County mayors earlier this week, and Patty Hayes, the director of King County Public Health, said that they're now averaging at least 551 new cases per day just in King County. And that mirrors what's happening in the city of Federal Way. We've reached all-time highs, where in the summer we were having 3, 4. The highest in the summer I think we had was 20 or per day. Earlier this week and last week, we were getting up into the 50s and 60s in Federal Way of positive testing. So I really feel like we really need to do everything we can to clamp down on this. This is a life and death issue for many people in our community. 47 people in our city have passed away as a result of this pandemic, and we just want to make sure that we I don't want to get it. I don't want my, our kids, or we don't want the kids in our community, our coworkers, our friends, our family members, our neighbors, For some people who have mortality factors, whether, whatever it is, wherever you find yourself, um, and where our people in our community have certain risk factors, um, um, have certain risk factors. We just need to make sure that everybody stays as healthy as we can. So that being said, for now, at least through December 14th, the pool will stay closed. And I know that our staff does a great job of keeping it clean, but we just can't take any chances. So I hope you understand. Um, okay. Let's see here. Thank you for having this meeting. Okay, we talked about that. Andrew's question. Tirza writes, how much more money is it going to cost us for the Sound Transit art design, and where is that money coming from? Tirza, that comes out of the Sound Transit budget. I can tell you this. We have to do things right the first time. And, the city council was not asked what our input was. And I just have to tell you, just from a standpoint, if let me tell you what my brother Phil. That you guys, I have a brother Phil, and that would make him Phil Farrell, and he was a firefighter. And Phil Farrell, a firefighter, was the sort of the Will Rogers of the family. He very much sort of witticisms. We called them Phillyisms. Phil used to pour concrete, and he used to have the saying that pouring concrete could be a monument to your ignorance forever if you don't know what you're doing. And and I can tell you this: we're in the process of pouring some concrete for this community. What we're doing, whether it's the steps, whether it's the park, the pack, the new light rail that's going to come in, that's going to just transform our beautiful downtown. It needs to be done right the first time. If you don't do it right the first time, it has to come out the hard way. This piece of art is the same thing. This piece of art will be seen by tens of thousands of people every day. And that piece of art really, I think, would have made Federal Way a laughingstock. And reasonable minds can differ, and it's okay if you disagree. But from my point of view, and the reason why we really put our foot down about this is that elephant on a dead tree stump really was ridiculous and absurd. And at 30 feet up in the air, what people would have seen when they rolled in was the backside, if you hear what I'm saying, of that elephant 30 feet up on this pole. It would have made us an object of derision. It would have made us an object of ridicule. And we don't need that. We need art that uplifts our community, and we need art that complements our community. We're a beautiful city. We have a lot of amenities, and we want things that when people get off that, they'll stop and ponder and say, wow, that's beautiful, or that's cool, or, I sure like Federal Way. Let's get out and stop, instead of a debatable issue about this ridiculous piece of art that would have probably ended up on who knows where. So I'm really proud of the council that they stood up with us and just said no. So in the grand scheme of things, I think they may have sunk some money into it. They didn't ask us before they did so, but we had to speak now or forever hold our peace. And I'm glad they listened to us, and they did it. Actually, I really want to say something. So once, and I think most people were probably a little too polite to say something. Art's a very subjective thing, and nobody wants to be that unreasonable person. But at some point, and you got to speak up. And if you have to be a little unreasonable, I think it was necessary. The money's going to come out of their budget, but we don't want to be penny smart, pound foolish. So they're going to restart the process. The artist is going to be, coming back out and getting. They just hit the restart button. Let's see here. Mixed use. It's been done in many downtown cores. Yes, Cynthia. I think with regard to the mall, I think a mixed use concept there really makes sense. What we haven't had in the downtown, and this is really, if you think about it, in municipal and urban planning, they have something called passive vigilance, and the concept is that if you have people working and living in a downtown area or in a particular area, then you really have this sort of connectivity. Right now, what's happening with our mall is, or not our mall, but our downtown, is that after business hours, everybody walks away and leaves. So you have this really sort of empty downtown space. Having people live in your downtown will really activate commerce in a city. And that's really where I think you're talking about that activation. But you need that passive vigilance. You need the folks that are downtown walking. And that's why the walkability in our downtown and really planning for a real true downtown, I think is very critical. When I was in college and went off to law school, and I never thought I was going to be an urban planner, but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to really be thinking about the future. That's one of the reasons why we did our time capsule um, last Friday, and actually it wasn't last Friday. It was the Friday before last. Um, and Actually, we just buried the time capsule today, so we put all that stuff in there, and we're really thinking about and really planning on the future in the city, and it's exciting. And Federal Way is young enough at 30 years old this year to really have an impact on the direction it goes. And people may not understand the import and the impact of the pack and the steps and the park, but they are building blocks for the future. They're going to be there long after we're gone, and they are really sort of building blocks on how this city builds up. And there was a question I answered before this a couple of days ago about the steps, and I heard about how much those steps cost and all that. The money for the steps came from state funding, county funding, and its key infrastructure. Had we not used that money for that infrastructure and right of way improvements, which is what it is, we would have given that money back. And where there was once an imposing 30-foot wall that separated key parts of our downtown between our park and the pack and what's eventually going to be where the Target property is, we have now activated that and opened it up. The only city money that was used on that was $126,000 of REIT money, real estate excise tax money, that can only be used for capital expenses. No general fund money was used. But I was out there this morning and just kind of taking a look around. I love to go walk around the park, or take a look at the steps and the pack. We are in the process of not only creating our own future, but creating a downtown that is something that we can really be proud of. And that's many years in the progress. All right, Terry Falro writes, thank you for the litter pickup trucks. Federal Way is beginning to look pretty, it was beginning to look pretty trashy. Terry, absolutely. I mean, I think, I talked to the council members about this. We did a big volunteer litter pickup project. It was on the front page of the paper a few weeks ago. And I have to tell you, that was not last Friday, but the Friday before. It was looking pretty trashy, and it was really something where I drive around on the weekends, and I had to like pay attention or write down all the locations where I saw trash. Well, we can't have that as a city. When we used to have a prior service, that service was discontinued because the company changed their business model or their practice, and we literally had to just create 2 new positions that they were dedicated to this. That's the least we can do for the people in this community, is keep it clean. So if you see where property is, call my office, email my office, or once the app gets launched, it'll immediately go where it needs to go, whether it's in Public Works or wherever it is. And that's what has taken us most of the year to make sure that we get the contract approved, that we've got all of the I don't know anything about computers, but but once it goes in, that it gets sort of shuttled to the right place. That's why we've got Thomas Fitchner, our IT director, who is managed that project. And I frankly, actually, talking about Thomas for a moment, when we went through the Great Recession 12 years ago, we really doubled up with certain departments. IT used to have its own department. Now that that department got folded into the mayor's office. Instead of a director, we had a manager. 12 years ago, they combined parks and public works, totally different key functions. So since I've been mayor, one of the things we've really been trying to do is not sort of, but really making sure that not only are we addressing our downtown, not only are we addressing public safety, but we're addressing service delivery at the city and how best to do that. That's one of the reasons why I made IT its own separate department again, because of the critical role that IT plays in service delivery and making sure that that we're safe as a city. So one of the cool things we did at the budget was institute all kinds of safety precautions and trainings, and some really interesting artificial intelligence software that we're purchasing to make sure that we don't get any sort of malware downloaded to our systems. But that's a whole other conversation we could have. Okay. Oh, thanks, Jamie Lynn, for the litter control comment. Tirza writes, why only two churches? There are several in our area. They're there to get more, a plan to get more on board to provide service for the homeless during the winter. Tirza, I've tried. I gathered up on two separate occasions dozens of the churches in our community. Many, and we've had them here at City Hall, and we are working. I think certain churches don't have the space to be able to do it. Certain churches just are not set up that way. We have been able to reach out. That reach out has been done. If we can identify other churches, that's great. But I've personally spoken to many, dozens of churches in this community. Now they have a role, and that many of them have their own processes and their own. We have a great church community in our city. They are really just the heart and soul of this community, and we have well over 100 churches in our city. And we communicate with them, we work with them, and we work in partnership with them. But it is a certain service delivery that I think some people are set up for, some people aren't. Anyway, we have two that we're working with. If we could find more, if you can identify and do that, that'd be great. But a lot of that outreach has occurred, just FYI. Jacqueline writes, Mayor, could you please check out about El Centro de la Raza distributing the rent assistance? They're not using the same criteria for all applicants. Jacqueline, I was just talking to our human services manager about that. And we did have them help distribute out that. I'll look again, and I'll talk with El Centro. We are very fortunate that El Centro de la Raza has come to Federal Way. We had a big grand opening last year. I'll look a little bit further into it. My understanding is that money that was allocated to them through the CARES grant has been distributed. But equity is at the core of everything we do, making sure that government operates effectively and equitably. Jamie Lynn, so you're asking why do they keep it under wraps? Maybe because they don't want me to announce it. I don't know. I try to be the best ambassador of Federal Way that I can. I didn't know actually that the first grocery store was actually supposed to be too quiet. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But I don't know. Maybe they don't want to. I can only guess that they really want to do their own launch. And we're excited about it. We're excited about the use of that property. As soon as I know and I'm able to tell, I'll get that word out. And we really try to work in partnership and collaboration and put our arm around as many people as we can to help them. So we're here to help. And if they want to get that word out on their own, that's great. But as soon as I know, you'll know, if they let me. So I think they know that. Can you please provide the ingredients in the COVID? Tirza, I don't know the ingredients for the COVID drug. I think at the core of what you're saying is that we need to make sure these are safe. I was actually watching a news program this morning about, I think 40,000 people were involved in the Moderna study. There was a concern that study did not involve women that were pregnant. That was something that there was some concern about that. I don't want to get too far down there. I would just encourage, I don't want to go down that road. I would encourage everybody on their own to research this. And I think ultimately, we all want to make sure that our children, our loved ones, if they take a vaccine, when it becomes available, that they're safe. And I think that's why the FDA will do everything they can. We're very hopeful that's the case. I don't know what the content is, but I would just be a wise consumer and read what you can with reputable sources. Let's see what the FDA says about this. And when a vaccine is approved by the FDA, my son, my wife, and myself will take a vaccine and make sure. But that's up to every individual person, and that's where we're coming from. I think the vaccine is a very important, critical step moving forward. But again, do your own research and look at reputable sources. Um, okay, we are being calling city council members about the terrible management. Oh, they are discriminating Latinx families, not using the same criteria. Okay, Jacqueline, thank you. We'll look into that. Thank you. Tirza, how is it that everyone can tell us what they want to do in our city? I have access to an international. Um, well, hold on. I'm getting to the point where I need my glasses. Can tell us what they want to do in our city. Have access to an. So, Tirza, what I would say is that it's the private marketplace. We can't, if Merlon Geyer wants to lease to a particular store, I think it's a market economy. They can decide whatever they want to do in the city. This is not a city action; it's a private action between two private companies for use in their community. So we wouldn't be in a position in which we could say yes or no to what they want to do at that property in regard to what kind of merchant. And who knows? Maybe it will be international. We'll see. I knew. Speaking of which, I know that World Market has been trying to get into Federal Way at various locations, and by definition, that sounds like it'd be somewhat international. But we've been reaching out to them and working with them, trying to get them interested. Debbie Smith Harvey. Hi, Debbie. Is Old Navy and Skechers stores still coming, and what time frame? Early next year, Debbie. Yes, they are still on track. Old Navy and Skechers, and that's going to be over there on that in that property behind where the Chick-fil-A is in the Bank of America area where Party City used to be, where I used to get all our balloons. Oh yeah, Cynthia, thanks. I love the bond. I did too, Cynthia. I have to tell you about the bond or Macy's. I still call Macy's the bond, and I have to be people correct me all the time. It was my one of my first jobs after college. Actually, I sold shoes for Nordstrom for a couple months, and then went to the bond. So, you know what? we all have many hats, many shoes that we wear in our life. It was a good experience. But yeah, retail is really kind of the core of the businesses in Federal Way. And it's important that we help them and support them. And I'm going to use this as an opportunity to talk about what we're doing. Since the COVID-19 pandemic has started, I've instituted two task forces. One, which is a community continuity task force with nonprofits and education, centers and education folks, and also just the hospitals and the fabric of our community. The second task force was a business resiliency task force, and we've met many times over the course of the past 9 months. And one of the things, and of course that's in partnership with the Federal Way Chamber, and I talk frequently with Becca with the chamber. And one of the things we're doing right now is we are really not only are we getting out money to the local restaurants, but we're also working with, and I told Becca about that, but we're also going to be launching a shop local campaign, working with ads and a website and make sure that we're doing everything we can to promote our businesses. So thanks to Becca. And frankly, later this week on Friday, actually no, tomorrow, I'm going to be having a conference call with many of the restaurateurs in our community to make sure that we talk about our quick time frame for distribution of this $550,000 in money. So okay, let's see here. So yeah, retail is a key part of this, and so are restaurants, and we're going to do everything we can to help them. But watch for the Shop Better Way campaign that we're working. We're working on ads and all of that. Alan Dahl says, need to have retail directly on the sidewalk. Well, Alan, what we're doing is making sure that people can put their A boards up, and we've actually loosened restrictions. That's one of the first things we did once the pandemic happened, to make sure that people can advertise, and then also we're going to be working on any excess funds from CARES Act, we're going to make sure that we, if we need to, buy tents and structures and heaters for restaurants to be able to serve people outside. That's something that we're looking at and actively planning on as well. Andrea Villa Booth writes, hello, I have a question regarding um, lane remarking due to safety hazards. I'm not sure what that's. Oh, lane remarking due to safety hazards. Um, Andrew, I'm not quite sure what the lane remarking. Um, I think we did a lane remarking, and we also did some remarking throughout the city with regard to um, bicycle safety. That was through a grant that we got, and that was throughout the city as well. I carried in this too. We have many cultural foods. So Tirza writes, there are a lot of other international foods that are not carried in this two you named. We have many other cultural foods and other items are not being met. Yeah, I mean, Tirza, what I would say is that we have many, many restaurants in our community of international flavor and origin, and we have a real rich tapestry and diversity in regard to the restaurants in our community. We welcome many of those and try to support every one of them that we can. Um, let's see here. Don't ignore the questions. Okay. So, Jacqueline, once again, I said we'll look into the El Centro de la Raza accountability issue, and we'll communicate about that. Thank you very much for your questions. Debbie writes, there are more and more gunshots being reported in neighborhoods. What are your thoughts? Debbie, actually, let me just tell you that is, I talked to the chief about that. We've put up quite a number of cameras in our community and making sure that we're doing everything we can. An arrest was just made on a young person in our community who opened fire at a house earlier. I'm not sure whose microphone is on, but somebody on our Zoom is the microphone is hot. So an arrest was just made yesterday, I believe, for a shooting that occurred earlier a month or two before. I could tell you that we're adding cameras, we're adding officers. The budget that we just passed actually added 3 more officers to bring us up to a historic high of 137 officers. We've never had that many officers in our city. And I do know I want to take some time to talk. There's a couple of really committed people in our community are talking about the percentages of officers to population and Proposition 1. I want folks to know that this is something that we take very seriously. The safety, your safety in our community is our top priority. It is, I like to say it's our number 1, 2, and 3 priority. It is the number 1 responsibility of city government. So we're doing everything we can to make sure that we're making our community safe. So, Debbie, when we respond to those shots calls, we do everything we can. In fact, I think you'd be really impressed with the police work that went in capturing that person. And it was well, I can't get into the details of it, but I could tell you that a great deal of investigatory work went into it. When we hear these things, what we have to do is respond, investigate, and if we can find the people that are responsible, we'll hold them accountable for it. But we've had some issues with regard to people discharging firearms, so it has my attention too. And we don't live that far apart, Debbie, so I hear it too, and so we're doing everything we can to make ourselves a safe city. It requires all of us, though. If you hear something, if you see something, let us know, and we're going to do everything we can to hold people accountable who fire off firearms or for crimes that occur. Okay, I see a Spanish something in Spanish from Andrea Villa Gomez. We'll have to interpret that, and actually. Oh, actually, I've got a translation button. The help of the center of the race was not one. You posted on your page. Never called us. They never called us back. Who were with them in their programs? Okay, thank you, Andrea. We'll take a look at that. That's why things like this are important to hear from you, Jacqueline. Okay, I'm not ignoring the comments about El Centro de la Raza. I promise. I see them. We'll take a look at it. Okay. Tirza writes, Again, it seems like the city council continues to allow other people to say what to do in our city and then make excuses when the community kicks back. Who's responsible for reading the contracts before they are signed? Um, if you're talking about the reading the contracts before they are signed, well, any contracts that are signed by the city, if they're not personal service contracts, they go through staff. I have to agree. The director has to agree. I sign the agenda bill. They're put on for committee. They go through committee, then they go through full council. If council approves, then I sign. So there's a whole lengthy process for contracts. And I think you may be talking about the SCORE jail and or whatever it is. But we look very carefully at contracting before we agree on anything. But there's a public process, and we're doing everything we can to, and we do follow the law very strictly. Okay, let's see here. Lori DeVore. Oh, thanks, Lori. Appreciate your comment about leadership. Thank you. Okay. Andrea writes, thank you for the additional detail and context regarding my question. Makes good sense given the current situation. Thank you very much, Andrea. Jacqueline writes, okay. All right. I see El Centro. We've talked about that. We'll make sure they distribute in a fair way. Cynthia Macatan writes, what is the status of the former Toys R Us site? Okay. So we're in litigation now. There's something called an operating easement. Operating easement agreement. And when we bought the property, just like when we bought the Target property, they had an operating easement that the property could only be used for certain things. When we built the pack, we bought that easement off of the people that own the property just north of the pack, and that was just a few $100,000. We have not been able to come to reasonable terms for to be able to use that property where the Target property is now. We have attempted over several years to come to a reasonable accommodation. We've been unable to. That's why the council, at my request, has authorized litigation to condemn the operating easement for the Toys R Us property. So, and right now, if we go through that process and actually get a judgment condemning that easement, we would have to pay the market value, which we think is the two parties, us and the party that own it, are very far apart right now. We'd have to pay the market value of that operating easement so we could use it. But if we have to go through the entire process and acquire it through condemnation, the property will only be able to be used for public purpose. And we've identified possible public uses. But if we go that way, we'll have to have a public process before we'd ever just identify it. Where the council would need to engage with the community, the city would need to engage the community on what we would use for a final decision. But we've got some preliminary public uses for the Toys R Us property. The Toys R Us property is a very pivotal piece. It's the very top of the steps. It's in the same parking lot with the pack, and it's a key part of that. So we are in litigation right now, and as soon as we get that resolved, we'll make sure the public knows. Okay, we got about 5 minutes left. Boy, this has gone fast. I guess it goes fast when you're talking all the time. Okay, so is it Aileen? I got to put my glasses back on. What steps is the city taking to support small businesses and the local food bank? Eileen, we have provided, I believe, almost nearly $50,000 to our local food banks, and really we are pro. It's the first thing we did when this hit. If we think the food bank is running low on resources, well, we'll distribute more money on that. And we did that with our own general fund money, but I think then we got reimbursed with CARES Act funds. And like I said, we're going to get out this next $550,000 in CARES Act funds before the deadline of the end of this month is reached. So we're doing everything we can, and we're doing a shop local campaign that you'll start seeing a website and advertisements in our local paper. Let's see. Rick Luna writes, Suggest restaurants to have peaceful protest inside their business. It is raining after all. Too wet to protest. Okay, thank you. Um, Hi, sir. I have a question that how the central of race is sharing that help. Okay, I understand. Thank you for explaining that. Thank you, Tirza. There's more comments about El Centro de la Raza. Hey, my old friend Christian Chandler. Hey, one of my friends who lives back east now. We were prosecutors together years ago. Hi, Kristen. Great to see you. Thank you. Um, okay, and Ms. Villa Gomez. Oh, Tim Johnson just handed me. I feel like a news reporter. Breaking news. If you know of a restaurant owner, any restaurant owner in Federal Way, get in touch with us right away. The applications for the $5,000 grants for the restaurants closes today. We've been getting that word out through the chamber and through email and through everybody who worked with us before, but the applications are due today. Tim Johnson is writing something for me. Um, late breaking news. One second. We are already over 100 restaurants. So what's applicants? We're already over 100 applicants, and we're reaching out. We're reaching out to the people that went through phase 1 and 2. But if you know of a small business in Federal Way that needs assistance because of COVID-19 shutdown, call us right now. Our phone number is 253 835 2402. 253 835 2402. We're here to help. Okay. We've got another 4 hours of business hours. And if you can get in touch with us, we'll get in touch with Tim and we'll get this contract to you. We actually have to be reimbursed by the State Department of Commerce. So there's this not lengthy, but there's a contract process. These are public dollars. So before we give out a dollar of it, we've got to make sure that we're doing everything strictly by the law. So anyway, you guys got the number. Okay, let me take a look at a couple more of these. Was misunderstood. I meant that having retail separated from the street by parking lots need to be up against the parking lot. Well, Alan, you know what? If you've got Alan, send me an email and we'll do everything we can. I think what you're trying to talk about is that we get some of our retailers up closer to the street. Maybe that's an option. Let's take a look at that. Shoot me an email. Jim.Farrell, spelled like Will Ferrell. Jim.Farrell at cityoffederalway.com, all rolled together. Jim.Farrell at cityoffederalway.com. Shoot me an email. We'll get it over to community development. We'll get it out to the chamber. We'll see if it's an idea. Thank you, Alan. Okay. Install center. Okay. I'm talking about remarking on to install center turn lane on Pacific Highway toward Fife. There's no center turn lane. That's been brutal accidents. Yeah, we're working on funding for that. I think you're talking about 376. That's about where I kind of grew up as a kid. I know exactly where you're talking about. We're working on it. It's in the long-term plans. Thank you. What efforts are the city taking in partnership with the Federal Way Public Schools in supporting families who are homeless or facing similar issues? So we're in constant contact with the school district. One of the things we've been working on is making sure that kids and families have access to broadband. I just talked to Dr. Campbell earlier this week, and we offered up $100,000 to ensure that that we are providing hotspots and making sure that we've got infrastructure in place where people can access the web. If we're contacted by people, with regard to homeless issues, we've got a homeless services manager, a whole variety of services, and we plug them in to those resources. Brian writes, what is the next step to stopping these silly shutdowns? How many businesses have to be killed before you step up for the needs of the community? Brian, I love this country. I love how people, we can agree to disagree. What the governor is trying to do is make sure that people don't die and that people's loved ones. That's why that's why the encouragement is coming from people not to get together with other relatives or non-household members at Thanksgiving. It's difficult. We're going to get through this. We're going to get through it together. Nobody wants to shut down restaurants, but we're going to come together, link up arms, and do everything we can. But thank you, Brian, for making sure your voice is heard. Okay. Okay. Eileen had one more question. Thank you. I had one more question. Where is it? Thank you for answering my question. Oh, Andrew wrote 374th, not 376. Thank you, Andrew. Okay. Um, okay. Thank you, Andrew. So you're looking at 374th. Let me look into that. Thank you. I think we've reached our 1 hour mark. I want to say thank you. This is not the end of the conversation. This is just the beginning. So if you I've given my email address, or you could shoot me an email through Facebook. I want to say thank you. One of the things I say a lot, and I truly mean it, is I work for you. We all do here at the city council, me, all the staff. We work for you, and it's my honor and my privilege to do so. I want to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Um, sorry, I had to clear my throat a couple times in the microphone. Please let me know if there's anything I can do or we can do to help make your lives a little bit better. Take care, everybody. Bye. Thanks.